Yeah, absolutely. So I'm quite excited about this. So we've got Ryan Wilson, guitarist with the Pigeon Detectives. He's also got his own Leeds United podcast, and he's a scuba diver. He's actually a dive master. So that makes him my new best friend. So welcome, Ryan Wilson.
Welcome. Thank you, guys. Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Let's talk scuba. And where did your scuba journey start? When did you actually become a diver, Ryan?
2009. I don't know if people can remember, but in 2009 there was the swine flu outbreak. Well, it wasn't quite a pandemic, but it started off in Mexico, and I had a holiday booked to Mexico, and subsequently that got cancelled. And the only place at that time of year to go that was warm was Egypt. And me and my girlfriend, who's now wife, me and my girlfriend at the time, we'd not been there before to Egypt, and it was hot. And it was just, I've been doing a lot of touring and just wanted to get away and relax. And so I went over to Egypt, and I've always been fascinated with the water, even as a kid watching things like Little Mermaid. I always wanted to be under the water, believe it or not. So, I saw the dive centre there, and I thought, do you know what? The dive centre's in the hotel. I went and had a chat with them, and it was SSI. It was SSI run dive centre. I did their equivalent of the open water course, and they gave me the books and the instructor. I had a few classes, and I was sat around the pool reading my book and doing, the quizzes and things like that. And then we went out and did a few dives in the Red Sea, and what an incredible place to do your first bit of diving. I think on my second ever dive, first dive we went about 10 meters, and it's just this little area. Second dive went a little bit deeper, and saw a huge big manta ray just really gracefully glide over my head, and I was absolutely in awe. And I'm like, wow, that's an amazing sight. And I think I've still got the photo somewhere. And at the time, my instructor had my underwater camera, because obviously as a new diver, I needed to concentrate on my BCD and everything like that. So my instructor said, exactly. Yeah. So my instructor said, look, I'll take your camera. I'll take a few pictures of you under the water and a few other things. And then he got a pretty decent snap of this beautiful manta ray flying over our heads, about 12 meters deep, something like that. We weren't very deep, and it was an amazing experience. I absolutely loved it. And we got out of the water, and my instructor said, look, I do about 250 dives a season out here. And he said, I've only seen that 3 times. He said, you're quite lucky to have a manta ray in this area. So that were really good to see that. And we saw big tuna fish and things like that.
So did your wife, girlfriend dive with you? Was she with you?
She was on the boat, but she's not a scuba diver. She's not very comfortable in the water. She's a good swimmer, but I had to teach her to snorkel on that particular holiday, believe it or not. I've always snorkeled, on any holiday that I've gone on and things like that. But it's just some people, as you know, working in dive centres, teaching, the act of putting your face underwater and trying to breathe, some people just struggle with it. It's an unnatural thing to do, and my wife's kind of one of them. And as soon as her head goes underwater, she's not comfortable, and so she's never dived, unfortunately for me, because I'd probably do a little bit more diving, or something like liverboards and things like that if she was interested. But unfortunately she's not. But she comes on the boat where she can, and has a day out with me while I jump in the water for an hour or so. So yeah, she's always with me.
I mean, the Red Sea is an amazing place to dive at any point, isn't it? So yeah, to learn to dive there must have been amazing. And I mean, we've seen manta rays as well, and it's like you say, they're so graceful, incredible animals, aren't they?
Yeah.
Very lucky to see that on your sort of certification dives. Absolutely brilliant. But you have gone a bit further, haven't you? The banners that have been coming up says Divemaster. You obviously decided to take that a bit further and to go sort of pro. So why did you sort of think about doing that then?
Well, I got the bug, quite simply got the bug. I came back home to Leeds, where I live, and there's a dive centre in Leeds. Believe it or not, Leeds is nowhere near any coast. It's kind of like quite as the middle of the inland as you can get, really. But we're an hour and a half away from the east coast, and similar to the west coast. But there's a dive centre in Leeds. At the time, was run by a bunch of really good people, and I went there and had a chat with them, and that was a paddy run dive centre. So we did like the crossover course to do the advanced open water course. And we started doing some inland diving at Capernwray. Went over and did my advanced open water at Capernwray, which is in Lancashire, an old quarry. And yeah, I just absolutely loved it. And I started just progressing from there as well. Started to buy my own gear, got my own regulators and my own dry suit, my own BCD, things like that. You just started buying bits of equipment where I could, dive computers, things like that. And just going out diving as much as I could with friends who I met at the dive centre. Started doing specialities. And then once I kind of exhausted all that, I had a chat with the guy who owned the dive centre at the time, and he just said, do you want to go professional, which the first level's to be a dive master? I said, well, what does it include? And sat down and had a chat, about all the, the training and learning you have to do and all the different aspects to pass the course. And it's a very big course to do, actually. There's a lot of things you have to tick off to pass your dive master course.
It's a course to do, satisfying when you're finished, for sure.
Yeah. It took me quite a while, to be honest with you, quite simply because once I started doing that, I was doing a lot of touring and a lot of writing and recording and things like that. So I had very little time to dive. And there were people who started the dive master course with me. And by the time I'd finished my dive master, they'd gone on to be instructors. Because they'd had so much more time than me to do it. They'd flew past me, So yeah, I eventually did it, and it was so satisfying. I remember actually passing my course. It was on a Saturday afternoon. I was doing some training in a pool with the master instructor at the time, and he signed it off, and that was the last thing. And it was my friend's birthday in Leeds City Centre, so I literally jumped in the shower at the swimming pool, dumped all my gear in my car, drove my car to my mate's house, and went straight into town and into Leeds, and ended up getting on the beer and had a bit of a celebration for my friend's birthday and for me passing my dive master course eventually.
I mean, it's an achievement, isn't it? I mean, when I passed my dive master and I'd qualified, I just felt that I'd just achieved something quite special, really, and I think it is, because it's a lot of hard work.
Exactly. Not only the aspect of having to do like the dives and doing the things you have to do in the dives, but the aspect of learning how to teach, like that's quite difficult, really. It doesn't come naturally to a lot of people, being able to work with other people and certainly teach. So it wasn't easy. I must admit I didn't really struggle with much, but I had to work hard on quite a few aspects of it eventually, and I got there, and I had a great team around me, to be fair, some great instructors helping me out, and the guy who owned it is one of the master instructors, I think they're called, course director, I think they call them, sorry. It's a course director, which is one of the highest levels of accreditation you can get at PADI. And he was brilliant. He's a natural teacher. I used to watch him, how he used to not only teach, but how he'd speak to people and educate people. And he was really, really good at what he does. And no wonder that dive site was quite successful with instructors and things like that, because they had a great course director running the show.
Yeah, it does make a huge difference. Huge difference. There's some really good ones out there, isn't there?
Yeah.
So Ryan, what's your most memorable dive?
Ooh, most memorable. Probably. I mean, I've been lucky. I've done quite a lot of good dives, but I really liked wrecks. Really into wrecks. And I was out in Malta on a dive trip, and we dived at a wreck called the El Farouk, which is a huge container ship, and it's split in half at the bottom of the sea. And I just remember we were just kind of descending down towards it, and as the visibility opened up, and you could see this great big wreck, and it was snapped. And I remember being quite in awe, like, wow, this is incredible, this huge ship, and you're just descending down onto it. I just absolutely loved that dive, and I still remember it today, to be honest with you. A superb dive, or the lot of it, and yeah, wrecks fascinate me, and I just absolutely loved that one in particular. But I do like a bit of wildlife and things like that as well. I was diving out in Indonesia a couple of years back on some islands called the Gili Islands. And I was on an island called Gili Air. And there's a lot of it's an area where a lot of turtles nest and breed. And I saw some beautiful turtles all just sat resting on rocks and all the coral around it, because it's that part of the world. It was beautiful. So yeah, that was also a very memorable dive, that particular one in Gilead.
Sounds really nice. Do you have a special place for UK diving that your favourite UK dive site?
Well, I really like UK diving, but obviously, as you know, UK diving can be quite difficult with the weather. It's quite, sometimes I've been diving, and I love the Northeast Coast, by the way. That's my favourite. I've dived down in Anglesey. I've been to quite a few places all around the UK, up in Scotland, but I quite like a place called Sea Houses and Bamburgh. There's the Farne Islands there, which is really good fun. There's some wrecks off there as well, which are really good to dive. And that was actually the first UK dive in the sea, anyway, that I did was out on just near the Farne Islands. So, and I like to go back there because it's actually a really beautiful part of the world. It's got really big golden sandy beaches there as well, and it's a really nice area to dive, and we've got a lot of seals there which come and play with you, which is it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, the underground, the underwater topography as well, with the big kelp forests and swimming through. We were Jim and I love the Farne Islands, and just swimming through the kelp, and all of a sudden a seal just appears in front of you, looks at you, comes over, has a little play with your fins, swims up and looks at his reflection in your mask, and it's just an incredible dive. The Farne Islands, we love it.
Yeah,
the one thing about doing this podcast and talking about diving makes me want to go diving.
Yeah, it does. It does. When we spoke the other last week, guys, when we were talking about me coming on this podcast, it made me want to go diving. But obviously we're a little bit restricted at the moment. But also it's another place in the UK which is a brilliant dive, which I'd recommend to anybody. It's a place called the Lundy Island, and it's in just outside the Bristol Channel, that part of the world, and it's a protected area, so you actually get a lot of coral and a lot of life there. It's not all dredged up as a seabed. It's a really good place to dive, and you often get dolphins there as well. Yeah,
it's a lovely place. I mean, there's a lot of protection there. I think Tim Clements from Vobster was talking about the citizen science project that they're doing at Lundy Island, so you can get involved in doing some environmental work and logging data to help protect that area. So that's really good.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah, you mentioned our previous chat, and I'm going to remind you of your promise, Ryan, that you did say you're going to get all your dive gear out of the garage and get it serviced ready to guide us around Capernwray. Have you done it? Have you got your gear out yet?
I haven't done it yet, but it is going to happen 100%, because today, believe it or not, I actually bought some disinfectant stuff to clean some of my gear, like a non-abrasive disinfectant thing, like a Dettol, but just like one that doesn't smell as much as Dettol, because I'm going to get it out and clean it, and then I'm going to take it to the dive centre and get it done. I definitely am, and funny enough, I mentioned it to my wife today when we was in the supermarket earlier. I said I need some of that disinfectant to clean my gear. But yeah, I've not managed to dive over in the UK for probably about 18 months or so now. It's been a little while, just due to circumstance, but with work life and things like that, and it's just sometimes difficult finding the time. But it's been fair weather diving really when I've been on holiday, jumping in, having a little splash when I'm on my holiday. But
you need to get your stuff. You need to get your gear into your dive centre and get it serviced, get your regs serviced, get your BCD and dry suit done, because Capernwray opens on the 23rd of June, I think.
Does it? Not too far away.
No,
there we go.
Anyway.
We had Carol, who owns Capernwray, came on as a guest. And we promised her that not long after she opens, we'll be coming up to say hello and shoot a short bit of video up there, which we'll really look forward to doing. But we need somebody that knows the area that's going to guide us around, and you're that man.